Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Odin's Movie Blog. I am the critic who is a cynic. Hope you're doing well. And today we're talking about the Mulan box office and why its opening weekend projections are something that should be troublesome to Disney right now, especially with everything going on with CV around the world. And, of course, their big box office gamble trying to push this heavily in the Chinese marketplace, and why that's really not going to be a factor, at least for now, when it gets released at the end of March, because it's not going to be able to be released in China by the end of March because of everything going on with CV and how CV could have impacted in other countries around the world, and also possibly even here in the domestic marketplace as well, especially as cases continue to spread. But let's go ahead and start off at deadline.com, which about 6 days ago or so had this saying that Mulan is eyeing an $80 to $90 million plus opening on tracking in the wake of CV stateside fears ramping up. And they're trying to spin this as, oh, this is really good. This is going to be a strong opening weekend for Mulan, even with all the stuff going on. And it's just amazing to me how even still to this day, people in the media will try and protect Disney at every single turn, even when the outlook of this film, the outlook of many Disney projects, do not look very good, look rather grim in comparison to the budgets of these films, right? Because if you look at this and you were just a layperson, you said $80-90 million, that sounds like a lot of money. But when you take into account that Mulan cost $200 million plus to produce, and that's not even including marketing, and they only get, as a studio, about 60% of the entire box office because they have to split that with the studios, or rather with the movie theaters, you realize that $80 to $90 million isn't that much in comparison, right? If this was a film that only cost $5 billion to make, oh yeah, that would be a massive number. That would be already making its money back, and it would already be, solid. But this is a number here that should be very concerning, especially when you compare it to some of the other live-action Disney movies, and you look to the ones which had the best releases and which have had some of the lower releases as well, and the fact that there is at least one Disney live-action movie that was essentially a box office flop, that was essentially a box office failure in Dumbo. I don't talk about that movie enough on the channel, but it is true. Dumbo is really the only live-action film since they've started to do these live-action remakes that has actually flopped at the box office, and it has a lot to do with the darker tone to that movie and a lot of other things going on with it. But Mulan could be affected and impacted by CV so much that it could end up making only as much as Dumbo worldwide because of not getting those international numbers like Dumbo did not get in the international marketplace or in the American marketplace, or rather the domestic marketplace. But as you can see, Mulan eyeing $80 to $90 million, and it's going to go ahead and try and spin it for everything. Disney's Mulan boarded tracking this morning and is seeing a 3-day domestic start around $85 million when it hits theaters on March 27th. Some believe the live-action remake of the 1998 musical animated pick has a shot to get $100+ million based on tracking diagnostics and comparative titles. But the looming outbreak of the CV stateside brings uncertainty in regards to how much it will damper grosses. So what's interesting to me is that they will continue to try and push this up, saying, oh my gosh, this opening weekend's going to be fantastic for it, but, all this is within the realm of everything going on with CV. We don't know what's going to happen, which kind of gets you to this double-edged sword, because does CV have an impact on the box office? I would argue, yes, absolutely it does, especially in the foreign marketplace where a lot of countries are being shut down. Look at Italy, right? Almost the entire country has been shut down because of it. Look at China, right? Almost the entire country has been shut down because of it. And I think that when you look to that and you look to all the different places around even the United States, there are certain cities that are starting to consider, should we shut down businesses? Should we do this? Should we do that? And as cases continue to broaden and continue to become more rampant, it's going to become a higher fear. But now it's also an opportunity for people like Deadline and for people in studios like Disney to use it as an excuse. So does it have an impact? Yes. Does it mean that a movie would have been as successful without the outbreak going on? Again, that's flip a coin. It's really hard to say. So I think it's disingenuous of Deadline to try and play this both ways, saying, oh, it's going to have an amazing opening weekend, but this is all, again, uncertainty in regards to how much the CV is going to damper grosses. So if it comes in underneath that $100 million, we can blame CV for that, and we don't know what kind of impact it's going to have. Even though I would say more, fair sites, that's why I usually follow boxofficepro.com, because they're not always the most accurate and they're not always the best, but I do think that they tend to take a more of a realistic approach to their estimates, and they will change them and they will admit when they were wrong in their estimates and explain the data and explain why they were wrong. You don't see that happen from people like Deadline, or at least not that I've noticed in this, in the past. But they have Mulan set to around $65 million opening weekend, which to me sounds a little bit more correct. And for them, they have the overall domestic total for the film being around $185 million, which also to my ears sounds about correct. While people over here have the opening weekend set to anywhere from $80 to $100 million plus, and likely a $300 million domestic total. But again, I don't know if it's going to be able to hit that number because I think they have isolated so many fans from this film because they have decided to have that focus on the Chinese marketplace, saying, oh, this is a Chinese legend. Let's go ahead and go back to basics. Let's go back to the original story. Let's try and take out all of the music, take out Mushu, take out all these other fun elements that made the animated movie such a great time for so many people at the theater. And even now, even in post-release, right, DVD and Blu-ray release, that's why people still watch that movie and find it fantastic. I love the music to the original Mulan film. And I don't care if it's not accurate to the original story just because of the fact that it is meant to be an adaptation in a musical animated format and not a, again, I guess you could say more traditional live action, which, again, some would argue saying, but doesn't that mean that this film should be better received because it's being more close to source material? You always complain about films not being, accurate to the source material. Now you're making excuses. And I think that there's definitely a point to be made there. The difference, though, is that Mulan has already been released. And it's been released already as the musical format that already strayed away from the original story. And so because of that, you are basically, and I'm glad that they've been doing this in the marketing, where they've made it clear that they're not trying to make this a huge musical, and huge... They're basically not trying to lie about what kind of movie this is going to be. They're not trying to insinuate, oh, there could be music, there might not be music. They've been very clear that there's no music in this. It's focusing on this instead, where we're cutting these characters, we're cutting this, we're cutting that, we're changing some things from the original. And I think that that's what's going to push people away, right? It's a PG-13 film too, and that's something that people might not be talking about as much, even though I think families will continue to go to see this movie. You might have families that say, yeah, I don't want my young child seeing all that violence on screen. It's got a PG-13 rating because there's a lot more violence on screen compared to a lot of other Disney films. But it is interesting nonetheless. But I wanted to get to other Disney choices and other responses that we've seen from Disney live action in the past. So, for example, Aladdin had a domestic opening weekend of $91.5 million. So that means that potentially, and I would say most likely, Mulan comes in under Aladdin. Aladdin ended up coming across the $1 billion mark just barely. So even that film just barely crossed the $1 billion mark, and that was not dealing with CV in other parts of the world, was able to re-release in China and other places and make some box office money from there. So again, because Mulan's not going to have that, just like with Onward, I think that could potentially lead to Mulan being yet another box office disaster, just in a very different way. The live-action Jungle Book had a $103.2 million opening weekend. Lion King, of course, did crazy numbers with 191.8, but even that one technically was not really live action, right? That was mostly an animated remake of the animated version of the story. Beauty and the Beast live action had a $174.7 million opening weekend as well. And then it makes a point saying Mulan is strong. Natch is strong Natch? What does Natch mean? With women and Asian audiences, females over 25 are a bit stringer than females over. What? That didn't make any sense. Deadline, you might need an editor for that because that didn't make any sense, at least to me. But you see, then it brings up the movie, and this is the reason why I don't think Mulan's going to do as well, is because this was from about 6 days ago. This is before the Onward release. And they had, the expectations for Onward are down to $47 million for the upcoming weekend, which was originally set to be around $50 million. And guess what? It ended up making less than $40 million in its opening weekend. So what does that mean? It means that I think they are over-projecting for a lot of these films. I don't think they're understanding that CV is going to have some impact on American audiences. But just like with Onward, I would say Mulan's in a similar category. I think they're underestimating how isolating the marketing for this film is going to be for American audiences because, to be honest, the trailers for this have not really seemed to say, American audiences come to see this movie. It doesn't really seem to have a lot of the elements that American audience would be more interested in, at least, again, in my own opinion. You could disagree with that, and you might be able to make some good points. But overall, I think anyone can at least admit the fact that that China, that has been the focal point of Disney's marketing campaign. And not having China, not having that big box office juggernaut to bring in a crap ton of money overseas could lead to this film not only coming in less than the 80 to 90 million that they're projecting. Like, again, it'd be interesting to find out in the next couple of weeks if this number changes at all, if it goes up higher, if it goes up lower. Again, I think it's going to go a lot lower. And how that's going to impact what they're going to be making excuses about the film. And also, of course, the international numbers, too. Once we get some actual box office numbers for this, I'll be able to give you more accurate predictions about what I think the film's going to make. But again, keep those numbers in mind from the other previous live-action releases, where, again, Aladdin had a $91 million opening weekend and barely crossed the $1 billion mark with China in full force behind it. Not like Mulan, which is not going to have that same number. It's going to be more like Onward. Onward is set to be a major box office bomb for Disney. Mulan could potentially be in that same category as well. And for anyone that's wondering, I'm kind of interested myself. Dumbo, I think, might be the closest number that I could think of. Again, around $300 million worldwide sounds a little bit, more to me. So let's see right here. So Disney's Dumbo ended up only opening to about a $45 million opening weekend in the domestic marketplace, making over $100 million worldwide. But as you can see here, just not very good. Cinderella launched to $67 million, so I think that would also be another one. I would say this film most likely will fall somewhere between Dumbo and Aladdin, right? So the low end being $45 million. I think it'll make more than that here domestically, but could potentially be probably closer to the Cinderella number of $67 million domestically. But remember, this number is before inflation. Cinderella was one of the first live-action films to be released. It was a pretty good rendition of the story. But also, too, this film cost around $170 million, I think is what it said that it cost to make. So Dumbo carries a $170 million production budget versus Mulan, which is set to around $200 million production budget. So Mulan needs to make as much money as it possibly can. Otherwise, it's going to be looking at financial disaster. Because even if it does, because of it having more name, I guess that name recognition and PG-13 rating, maybe that might bring more people to it. You never know. But you could potentially see the film making over $400 million, $500 million worldwide. However, even if it makes that $500 million worldwide, that might just be enough to help it break even. But it also might not be enough either because of the split it has to make with the movie theaters. And also, of course, you have to subtract the amount of costs for marketing and for the production budget. But anyway, what are your thoughts? Do you think Mulan is going to be an epic failure? I think there's a very good chance that it could be. And I think CV is going to play a major role in the foreign marketplace, not maybe as much in the domestic marketplace. And I think it's going to be interesting to see how the media decides to spin this because, again, they're playing both sides of it, trying to say, look at amazing opening weekend, but, this is all in, CV. We can't talk about that. So we can't say that. But if it does happen, then we have it in our back pocket saying, well, we were mentioning that we didn't know the impact it was going to have, and now we seem to. Now that it's made the $65 million that some people have been projecting, but we haven't, CV is a part of the discussion for that. So let me know your thoughts about that in the comment section below and all the things we talked about as well. If you like this video, please make sure you smash that like button, hit that subscribe, hit that bell notification. That way you can be notified anytime a new video or live stream goes live. You are all amazing and beautiful people. I hope you all have a wonderful day. And as always, God bless. And now to give a special shout out to my March Patreon and Subscribe Star members, animation commentator Brian P., Dion, David Brobrizik, Divex, Elizabeth M., Enrique Evangelista, Father Christopher Miller, Hail Father, Frank the Tank and the Shawhan Wiener Dog Clan, Harold Francis, the Honker Chunker Funky Monkey, Inflamed Wood, Trap Productions, Jason Clark, Jeffrey Toon, JJ Jonathan Jerembeck, Kenneth Cameo, Lady T, Mad Mitch Dunaway, Mr. Peabody and his evil twin with the beautiful hair, Orange Hat Reviews, Outpost Dyer, Perpetual Punster, Riff Magos, Riff Racer Request, Rosetta Allen, Sir Lancelato, Steve Glasker, Teresa Martin, Theodore Bendon, The DJD Show, and Tina B for Patreon, and my Subscribe Star peeps, Robert Revo, Larry, Mr. Roy, Glinzer, G2 Cool 99, Dark Star 57, Alex McCarthy, US 888209 Fast, Dean Heiss, Harold Francis, J-Rod the Beer Guru, Nebadan G. Adams, and ZK Man, and Mike Jackson. Thank you all so much for being my Patreon and Subscribe Star members for the month of March. You are all amazing people. Thank you so much for the support, and I hope that you are enjoying your perks. If you do not know the perks that you get, make sure you read again through all the perks that are listed, and also check your messages if you're over on Patreon, because if you are a $5 and up backer on Patreon, you get special access to giveaways over on the Discord. I send out messages with a link to join the Discord server. I will then hook you up over there, and you'll have access to some really cool giveaways. I give away 4Ks, Blu-rays, digital codes, try and give away at least a couple of big movies, 4K Blu-ray titles a month, and try to do at least 2 to 3 giveaways for when it comes to digital download codes. And I might try and do a little bit more this month as well, because I'm always trying to add extra stuff to it. And also, if you are a $10 or up backer, then you have access to a special podcast that I'm starting to do with John the Flick Pick. That's right, John Flickinger of the Flick Pick channel. We're having a lot of fun with the podcast, and so expect that every couple weeks. And of course, also any extra behind the scenes, extra footage, extra interviews, extra solo podcasts as well, you will also have access to. And my special $25 and up backers on Patreon Subscribe Star, you have access to all of those things that I've listed. You also get a t-shirt. That's right, I will send you a t-shirt for your first month. And of course, you can also be featured on the Chosen to Valhalla live stream once a month. You get to be featured on the Odin's Movie Blog channel. It's always usually on a Sunday around 12 p.m. Eastern Time. You get to join some lovely peeps and have some really great discussion with all of the Chosen of Valhalla and me with the live audience. Anyway, you guys are all amazing and beautiful people. Thank you so much. Have a wonderful day. And as always, God bless.